Welcome back to the Geometric View, where we wrap up Season 2 and we get into Leibniz, Gödel's incompleteness theorem, Hilbert space, spintronics, neuromorphic engineering, geometry itself as a computer, the universal language, what does electricity consume, and much, much more. The Geometric View is a Love is Watching product. Thank you for being here and doing that. I'm your host, Buddy James. Strap in, here we go. Please support us on our Patreon link below. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone to the Geometric View. I'm Buddy James, your host. We have Abyssal Dionysus, and we also have Brian. What last name do you want to go by, Brian?
My given name is Brian Lee, but my birth name, my surname is Horn.
Okay.
My family name is Horn.
Okay.
So it's either or. It's just sometimes people get that last name confused. You know what I mean? Like they go, they don't get the Horn part, but it's Horn with an E, which is kind of interesting because my name literally means Brian Le Horn, means the king who bears truth, the man who comes in truth. So right. Yeah, that's how it shows up.
All right.
And I'm good with B is cool for me, man, honestly.
Okay.
Like any of those sounds in there we're good with.
All right. Let me go ahead and start the episode. Let me go ahead and start the episode here. Welcome everyone to the Geometric View. This is the season 2, episode 24, and we have an action and information packed episode today. We are going to be covering Hopfian structures, death panels, Cassandra effect, agency, LSTM, which is long short-term memory network, as it has to do with neural networks, computational geometry, the universe game, what is electricity consuming, how can you build? We're going to keep that question in our mind the entire time and kind of recur and come back to it. How can you build a digital head? Cybercephalization. Is electricity as a body a dragon? When electricity becomes a body, is it a dragon or plasmoids? Curl, divergence, toroidal octopus brains, Gottfried Leibniz, his universal language. This episode is going to be exposing the digital matrix of the universal language, and I believe we can get lots of information from different places, but as usual, the Dougherty set and the Dougherty networks or the Dougherty matrix has a lot to offer on how we get into helical coils and filaments, fractals and frequencies. So Leibniz was the first one to create a computer. More about symbolic computational universal language, or combinatorial, combinatrix and combinatorials, Gödel's incompleteness theorem, Hilbert's math game, spintronics, spin electronics, Kirchhoff's law, and much, much more. So looking forward to meeting up with everyone as usual. I didn't have to read that, but I said that in the thing here earlier. Welcome everyone. It is a beautiful day outside, and we have a lot of fun content. It's like 67 degrees and hoodie weather where I'm at, and it feels great. So I'm gonna hop right into the episode as usual. We're gonna cover things that I didn't even just say because we got things in the note in the chat here, images that we just recently shared. So I break my episodes up into like 3 hours and 1 hour a piece. Typically, I try to do a presentation, a map that I draw or a map that I put together, and that's the first hour. And I talk about that, how it has to do with reality and other things. Then I do usually sometimes a presentation of a different person or news hour. We do an hour dedicated to the news and other things like what I was just talking about basically. And then the third hour we do show and tell, anything else extra, any questions, things like that. We move at a rapid pace, so if you could write your questions down and hold them for a little bit later towards the end of this hour, or when I ask if you have any questions, then this usually doesn't take an hour for me to present some of these things. In season 3, things are going to change up quite a bit. Brighton and I have already talked about some fun things in the background here, so looking forward to the next episode, or the next season. All right, so I'm going to pull this image up. Oh, you guys can't see my screen yet. I got to share my screen. Hang on a minute. Okay, share screen, full screen, share. Now I go to conversation. All right, so I threw these images in here because I didn't really, I'm going to wing this if I'm going to let it, speaking of wings here, because I didn't really work out anything for a presentation for this. I put the image out because I usually do have an image. I didn't have an image, so I chose one that is up in the Walter Russell Museum, and I designed this for that last year. And I think they're still on lockdown there. I don't know if they even, if they're in lockdown or whatnot. But anyway, so you can see I put this moth here inside the Dougherty set, and how where the wings happen to fit and break up the body in segmentation. You can see that there's that purple part right there matches the bottom of this circle. These dots right here match this arc of that circle. You have all sorts of weird things. The tip of this circle and this coloration, look at that. It's like paint by color, you know. The opening up, the closing of it right here, the gap. If you were to take the golden mean and the golden section, you have all sorts of correlations with how the golden mean is inside of this creature. I have the tool with me right now. Be cooler. I'm going to design a whole episode where I just get into golden scaling and show the golden ratio in all of these, but I'm also designing that for a book too, so we'll see how I get into that. You can see the counter space and the vortex tips of the wings, how important the vortex tips of the wings on beetles and on moths and butterflies. Now, when they flap their wings, they create more vortices. So the whole entire thing is vortical. So it makes sense as things grow and expand and move and change according to vortical coordinate systems and things like that, that we adopt one for our metric system, or at least have a metric scale that deals with things, measurement on all scales, using one language, one image, one scaling type of ratio. And if we were to use the inverse square law or the inverse cube law, we would get something similar to this particular Dougherty set that I have designed. And there's a reason why creatures unfold out of it and fold back into it. I've designed other images that show the caterpillar, the egg, the cocoon, and all of that fits inside here. You can totally see the cocoon almost right here, or chrysalis. So here's like the flapping of its wings. and it uses the same geometry that it's constructed out of to flap its wings as it propels itself forward. This is the inside vortex that's on this tip of the wing. This is the inside vortex that's on the tip of this wing. So I traced the inside of the bug, or I traced the perimeter of this side of the half of the moth, and then I 3D and I turned it into 3D wire mesh frame, and then I inverted it so it showed the outside vortex. This is the shape of the butterfly that is seen in figure H. D is the vortex here that I traced around the outside and that it makes when its wings are out. This is two of them put together. And then you have further Hopfian vibrations or Hopfian systems, which we're going to get into in the news hour. But it's like hop vibrations, and it's showing a lot of really in-depth science of what really is going on inside of Roger Penrose's theory of twistors and hop vibrations and things like that. So that's going to be super fun, and how it relates to the Dougherty set as well, because we can see that these are multi-layered Hopfians, almost a forest of them. And going back to last episode, we had Demystifying Science was on, and Demystifying Science was showing us a dual torus structure, torus stacked on top of a torus, stacked on top of a torus, and it was a whole row of them. And when you create linking systems of geometry or networks, that's also what Hopfians are and Hopfian systems. So super excited to get into all that. So I kind of decoded some of this here. You can lay the moths in many different spots on top of the set. You can superimpose it or transpose it on top of the set and see it in many different dynamics, how it relates to this. This is facing with the crown, or the creatures facing towards the throne. And this is the creatures facing away from the throne, or creature. And you can see that there's a geometry, a relative related geometry there. So anybody have any questions about this one?
You're talking about Chris. You're talking about cosmic.
Cosmic, yes.
Yeah, that's the sphenial bone.
Yeah.
Now no, I'm glad you said that. It took me a second. I was kind of getting, like, where we had a private moment. I get away from people. No, that's interesting that bone there is the butterfly.
If you talk soft, we can hear you perfectly because your mic's dialed in.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this is a new mic. Thank you very. Is this good enough?
Yeah, just speak soft unless you dial it down, because it is hard to adjust it on the when I'm correcting the episodes.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll speak a little softer there. There we go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the sphenial bone there, and it works the same way. When we move that, that's our upper pump. Our whole body is actually like three pumps, because three-part pump. Because if you look at a well pump, you have the upper well pump that you run by hand. Then there's the lower valve, the foot valve that's down in there that's working the lower end, and that's our sacral. This right here, the sphenial that's in the brain, in the center of the brain, that is actually vibratory. It's actually holding a piezo energy, and it's negated. So, or it's actually positively charged, and it's negatively charged. That's it. And it runs on perturbations, and you can adjust it with your tongue, stuff like that, in the different ways you think. But It's the upper pump. and it works. And notice that this looks just, you can take your butterfly and run right into the pelvis with that. See what I mean? That's why I brought that up, because the two correlate. The butterfly, the sphenoid bone, and the pelvis, they all go together. And if you look at your wavelengths, as you started showing the, as the butterfly moves its wings, you'll see that in that, those vortices are actually what causes the openings in the pelvis. And if you look at the hollow points in there, which actually 8 of them, 4 on each side in the sphenoid and the pelvis, those are all aligned and designed to harmonics of frequency, notes. So you got your C. C is always red. Sierra, the Sierra, the C is red. Red C. The reason why it's called the red C is to remind us there's a hint that the color red is of the prime C note or scale, however you want to look at this, the base middle C scale. Every note is whole. That is the base scale. When you look at them and you put them together with your butterfly, and then you look at how the only way we can build testosterone is working the upper and lower pumps where you have to do squats. You look at, we actually have to create the mimicking of a butterfly. As we create testosterone, run the melatonin into the serotonin and bring it back up to the front vortices as well. Everything is symbiotic. What you just showed there in the vortices of the, there you go, see? Is this your drawing, buddy?
Yeah, this was last week's episode. So we got
I'm sorry, I missed it then.
Yeah. So I presented a little bit about this at the beginning of the episode last week.
But you could acetate, like what I'd like to see your work do, and with Brighton and everything involved, and anyone that could be a part of it, this whole team as a collective, is to take your work like this, and where the bottom thing is, where the pelvis is, take the butterfly starting there, and then show the butterfly flying up into the sphenoid. So where you're actually showing the correlations of the energy, because what you said, the base science has to be a written linguistics that everybody understands, that at every field, we're getting into a field equation consciousness now, where we're all understanding field energies. And if we could start to head that off with terminology and linguistics that could show that these all correlate symbiotically, and in a movable form, where you're actually doing animations and animatrix on it. This would be such an educational tool. Your work is beautiful. I'm telling you what, I say it a lot, but I tip my hat to your technical form of it. You have inspired me to be more technical. You know what I mean? Because we deal with the perfect creator and a perfect creation process. And I just love how your work is actually nailing it for me, to see the colors, the music, the notes, the sound. See, there you go, the 4 bones holes that are, if you went back to that last picture. See that? The holes in them, they're like a flute, like the pan flute. And if you look at it, this is actually like a moth. It almost looks like a moth flying.
Mm-hmm. So this is, I'm trying to get it correct, and I want to make sure that I'm correct, because this first, until 2 o'clock, we're going to be talking about this kind of stuff. Going to get into the beetle here a little bit. I wasn't really particularly ready to present on this, but I don't rehearse anything. So I mean, I'm never it's always just free flow. There's so much to say. So I'm glad that we all are here, and we can openly discuss and talk about this for this hour, because I don't have much to say other than look at these correlations. It's super, super freaky the way that these lines right here line up perfectly with the bone.
Yeah.
With my head.
They're breaking out in sonic fractalizations. So as the bubble is, exponentially getting bigger in the golden means, that's what you end up with. And this, if you want to bring up, you can even see how the bone holes are. The bone holes are changing size, and if you go down, they narrow into a wedge, which keeps going. The octave exchange goes on forever in the small, into the infinite of the unseen, into the micro, as it moves out. And then you look at the last hole, and then the top of the last hole is actually a crest, Well, that crest is the missing space that actually holds energy that the bone doesn't even have. Does that make sense? That last perturbation hole pops out that octave, but then the octave keeps going in a larger manner. And that's why, you know, we have the torso is up top and the clavicle, and, you know, works with the scapulas and stuff. And that's why our arms move in the way they do, because it's actually an extension of the root energy of the pelvis. Then you go to a sphenoid bone and see the correlations of the same thing, like a flute. The holes in the bones get smaller, and in a correlation, they end with a dent or a crescent, is what I call it. And then in the bottom.
Look at this. Just look at it, dude. This is freaking creepy. Like the shadowing here goes right on these lines, you know, and highlights these certain areas, and it goes in right with there, and out here on our outer skull it goes into, and our brain's held in there, and that's the implosive force, and at our nose.
If you invert your picture, I just turned my phone, so it's kind of easy, but I turned it around so the green's on the top. It almost looks like a human head. You know what I mean? So where the green's on the bottom, excuse me. You know what I mean? Where, you know, the whole thing is inverted 180 degrees, top to bottom. And then you just did that picture exchange, but it almost looks like a human head. You know, and then the center part where it's all crossing, it's white, looks like where the pineal gland would be, with the two eyeballs, you know, and the two little white drums in the gray. Right there, yeah, right there would be the pineal, and on each side of that would be like your eye sockets.
Well, right. Well, this is where this brainstem is. This is the head. This is the sphenoid inside of the head on the Dougherty set. So
yeah, but I'm saying even upside down.
Oh,
you know, this is I do all kinds of stuff. I invert things, and I don't know why, but and it almost looks like Spider-Man's mask if you turn it upside down.
I was looking at X-rays of the human skull from above earlier to look for this, because Cosmic was wondering how this would line up, and you can see like a face in the top of the human skull. It's weird, and as an X-ray, I was looking at it. I'm like, what the heck? There's clearly a face in it, and I was looking at other ones, and I'm like, there's faces inside of the top of our skull, like you were just saying, you know, mimicry.
Yeah, you got. Yeah, what box? I broke that box up and made something else with it a long time ago. There's no box in my world, man. So there's no up, down, no nothing. There's a 0 point. What are you focused at? That's literally all we can do.
Let me point this out here. This is one of my.
See, I like this picture.
This is one of my favorite things that I have discovered, or maybe I'm not the first, rediscovered, whatever. But the Orfices or vortices, and you've heard me say this many times before. This right here is your nose. There's your vortice, and there's a circle coming up just like this too. That is the explosive death radiative vortex that your nose is. But it's smelling and taking in implosive or implosion. So it's the mouth of a vortex. Look at your eye.
There's pheromones right at the end of the nose that bring in that ethereal energy as well.
Now watch this. Here's your eye directly right here. Okay, this is a vortex. You see the vortex? Boom. Vortex. Boom. That is implosive, life-giving, generative, negentropic vortex going in your eye. Here's another one. Boom. Right here. Implosive, first gate, first sphere off of the center, implosive, negentropic gate for your eye. Look at the ear. Move right to the ear. The ear, here's another implosive vortex that goes directly into your ear. But the ear, you know, likewise, for every implosive, there's an explosive vortex. So the orifices on our face are literally designed for vortices. Look at where your temple is. Your temple, vortice, vortex, incoming vortex. Orifices.
Yeah, it's right in the center of it. Yeah.
Orifices or vortices. The back of the skull, we already saw that it comes in like this. Here's the brain. implosive, implosive, generative matrix, generative vortex. Now, I don't know what is here in the brain at that point or what is here. I'm really interested to know.
Well, actually, right there are your crystals for your ears. On that line you said, right there, that one you're on right now, those are where your ear crystals are at. You're right, because that's what you really hear from. I don't know if you're familiar with those or not. When people get vertigo, you have to reset those crystals, or they get polluted, or you get struck. Head trauma will cause them to slide.
For your sense of balance.
Oh,
yes.
Hold on. So you don't hear with the crystals. The crystals are part of your cochlear system, your vestibular. So it's two different nerves. But the apparatus for hearing is very close. Very close.
Yeah, thank you. They're part of the vibratory that causes it. Yeah.
This is your nose.
Thank you for distinguishing that.
Back here is your nose, occipital. It comes in and goes back.
And those are also where your on the left is the hippocampus, or on the left is the hypothalamus, and on the right it's the hippocampus. And right in those same lines too, underneath your occiput, right below the cerebral cortex. You know what I mean? So, in your neck, like right at the top of your neck, where your neck meets your skull at, is your hippocampus and your hypothalamus. The hippocampus is if you rub that in a counter or clockwise manner, you'll open up your sinuses. And if you do your hypothalamus on the left side in a clockwise manner, or that one might be counterclockwise, you open up your glandulars, and you'll create great energy flow as well. But that's funny that you're interesting that they all line up on these coordinates.
And looking straight down the brain, going down into your pineal gland, and then going straight down into your brain stem. This is it right here. You're going into a Birkeland current.
Right there where you're pointing at looks like a chicken butt. Look at the legs. It literally looks like a frog. See that in the top part of the brain, the front part of the lobe? It looks like two haunches of legs.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. But these simple patterns are different.
Like
somebody's preparing a chicken meal.
Yeah.
Buddy, you might not find this surprising, but all the vortices and all the things that you're talking about have been in Taoism for thousands of years.
That's what I'm saying. I was sure I wasn't the first.
I just remind me when I'm not driving, I'll get you a copy of Jerry Allen Johnson's medical qigong text, and you can find it. It's all in there.
Man, that makes my fingers tingle.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Could you post that in the group here for everybody?
Yeah, sure. No problem. Thanks. It's pretty heavy reading.
Yeah, everything. It's interesting you say that, because everything that I have uncovered comes from the sacred ancient. Everything. Yeah. I mean, from the Vedas, from the Vedikas, to all the way to Egypt, to the Babylonian, you name it, for the conquerors, everything, to 8,000 years ago of the first hybrid, the agrobacterium that they pulled soil bacteria and infected plant bacterium, which causes beta carotene. I mean, this is all that comes from the ancient. It's awesome that you brought that up, because that's where the proof's there. People can't say, oh, this is your opinion or not. No. We got thousands of years of chipped stone that says that this is the truth.
Correct. There are a lot of different diagrams from Ayurveda and Taoism. There might even be some in Egypt. I haven't looked. And there was a talk given, I can't remember who gave the talk, on forms of alchemical enlightenment in the Mayan hieroglyphics. So they were aware of the spiraling energy. But I can't remember where I saw that talk given.
It's in our muscle structure.
Now, I'm not that familiar with Taoism, so this is interesting, and I'll have to look into it. I looked into Buddhism once because it was a growing religion, and I'm like, well, I can't tell people not to go to Buddhism if I don't know about it. And I really realized that, wow, Buddha was pimped about 200 years after he left this earth, and it turned into a religion. Like Buddha himself might very well be turning over in his grave because of what they did to his word. You know what I mean? And then I started looking at all of them. Every single religion was perversed within 200 years of their original speaker, their original enlightened being that came, whether it was Christ, with Christians afterwards in 200 Antioch, whether it was Krishna, whether it was Buddha, Gandhi, all of them, everybody, it took 200 years to undo the rich, real enlightenment that was done.
Oh, that's where it is. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay.
Now, if you touch that with your tongue, you can slip your tongue in up behind the back of your uvula, up in the crater right there, that cranial cavity. And you can start igniting different piezo energies and cause your sphenoid bone and the sphenoid gland, your pineal gland, to start working in harmony and trickling down the melatonin. And if you do it right, the piezo energy, I've meditated for times where I've literally come out of it, like everything underneath the neck, like literally just goes on to auto zone. It's like you're not even thinking about it.
You know where my mind goes immediately?
Where?
Sucking your thumb as a kid.
Yeah, that creates energy. It does.
It hits it and it palpitates it, and it goes do, 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 do. And also there's a therapy that that they have developed that involves moving your entire structure of your face forward to look more beautiful. If you have an inset face, there is people on TikTok and other people that are claiming that they've been pushing their tongue using this exercise to not only grow their jawline but also push their face forward. But it's not really necessarily been proven, other than when they do it using like braces or different type of, it's not necessarily braces, but it pushes your face forward using different types of retainers and things like that.
Now I'll go with that, what you just said there, as far as the proof scope. But if you look at energies and holding two magnets together that can never touch because you've got, two south poles coming together. If you do the same thing, knowing the energy I know of the tongue, and you can actually, and your tongue is designed, notice that's a heart inside there, upside down.
There's
in
four
the nose
looking at you. 4 implosive and explosive vortexes looking at you.
Right? Amen. And your tongue's designed to slip inside of those navel canals to undo and reverse negative and positive dialectics.
Can you teach
if you get up and behind that sphenoid bone?
I have a question. Can you tell me, or you might know more about the temples and like what's going on here? Like what is there senses that we're missing that we're not understanding with the temples?
Yeah, there are senses there. Notice the temple. See where the G is?
Hang on 1 second, Brian. I'll let you go, but let's let Ramon go first.
Oh, please.
Well, I was going to let you know the name of the point there is Taiyang. And Taiyang is one of the 6 divisions. Taiyang means the highest of yang. And when you do a certain level of meditation and then you get the craniosacral effect and your sutures start to kind of move about and your bone resets, sometimes you can get a very strong vortex feeling right there, as if it's boring into the side of your head. But it could be muscular. There is a large muscle there called the temporalis. Yeah, well, it connects to the jaw, but there are a number of points inside the temporalis muscle. So it's not only the point that resets the muscle.
Yawning.
However, yeah, there's a lot of connection. There's probably like 6 different channel crossings there. So at any rate, that point is said to treat headache, but in my experience, it almost never treats headache when you needle it. So it's more likely that by maneuvering it energetically with your mind and your spirit, that you actually will cause the muscles to release, and then by releasing it relieves the tension headache. That's probably how that point actually would work. But,
that kind of makes sense.
It is also also a death touch.
When you grind your teeth at night and you wake up with a tension headache,
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. So ideally, you would by raising your mind to the crown area, you can activate that point. You do a little bit of breathing
Can you keep it on that front skull?
What's that?
You can, but I mean, I don't recommend generally focusing at the third eye so much as experiencing the third eye through the center.
Yeah.
But the channels that run through there are called the Xiaoyang. Xiaoyang means the lesser yang, and the Xiaoyang is one of the largest spaces of the body in terms of the organ size, the channel size, and the metaphysical of the Xiaoyang. So, for example, if your body is invaded by a parasite or a pathogen or a ghost even, and you defeat it with your immune system, but you don't kick it out of the body, it will try and reside in the Xiaoyang, and it's kind of like a safe zone. So at any rate, in the spring and certain other time of the year, the Xiaoyang becomes active. And Xiaoyang also is all the in-between things. So anything that's alternating, like alternating fevers and chills, and alternating between seasons. And you think of the concept of alternating currents in the body. So it's very interesting that all the Xiaoyang channels are converging there at the point called Taiyang. But like I say, it's a death touch point. And generally speaking, hidden things are found in medicine in the Xiaoyang division. Not that things can't get into the yin divisions or whatever, but when things are in the yin divisions, everybody knows the person's sick. It's very obvious. When things are in the Xiaoyang, you may not know you're sick for decades, and yet it's been there with you the whole time.
So
that's where the compression is, the compression and rarefaction zone. Could you go back to the skull again, buddy?
Which one?
The facial one. The facial one again. And as I want to talk, see the upper green areas, I just want to elaborate on what Ramon was talking about, is right there in those two green areas. Now, he talked about the 6 vortices going through there, but we need to look at the polar dialectic vortice that's going right between the two. See what I mean? It's the imaginary one that goes from each point to each point in that. So that if you go back to the eyeballs again, I'll show you. Yeah. Now look at where the greens are in the, the 2 green markers in the temples. Now imagine there's a line going straight across horizontally between them. See the line going up the center of the nose. There's the perpendicular. So there's your vortice. Now this works in like doing compression and rarefactions in electrical. This is why it causes a headache and or relieves a headache. Just like Roman was saying, that the Xiaoyang area is the balance point. Okay, the Peiyong is the lineage which is perfected on, and where is it measured at? So the Xiaoyang is if it's compressed because there's too much inner things that are being held in, either toxicities, like you said, bad energies, worry, anxieties, guilt. If they build pressure in there, they'll cause the skull to want to split, divide, pushing out. You know what I mean? And the same thing will happen on the other thing. And that's actually happening in between those 2 green points in the temple lobes. Now, also, when I meditate, those are the 2 points. And thank you, for Ramon, for bringing that up. I knew the other part about the cross-sectioning there, but with the 6 points in there, it makes for the 7, which is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You know what I mean? So you got your harmonics in there. But also, that's the point at which I'm meditating. If I meditate to the point I create the inner light, it always comes from those 2 zones. It always generates from the upper corners right there in the Peiyong. Always. And I didn't even know these things. I just started seeing in the dark one time, and it was really weird. I had myself a prayer closet completely dark, but I caught a glow-in-the-dark thing on the wall while my eyes were shut. So these are all energies that are going off, and why the temples are so important.
Yep. And we can see that it directly matches up here. And even the thickness of the skull here matches up with the thickness of the lens of life. This lens.
Remember, the top of our skull is hollow. You know what I mean? It's soft up there when we're born. And that's the beautiful thing, because there's something beautiful about going through that birth gate, the birth canal of the uterus, and going through the pelvis and the vesica Pisces down there. It's supposed to be compressed, just like the butterfly has to compress.
Mm-hmm.
And we're attacked for that.
That's why the hips are so tight, because the compression and rarefaction is meant for something. But we talked about this in other episodes, and it kind of gets personal, and it's kind of weird, because C-section baby or not C-section baby, I mean, I don't know that. Is there any? I don't know.
I will tell you this. I see it as a spiritual deformity. I see it as an antenna that you're not putting the melatonin, the honey oil out. Like the excretions that are in the brain as you're being born aren't being pushed into the beautiful energies of the body.
Well,
So that therefore,
we would have to look at beautiful, or we would have to look at savants and see how many savants were born C-section and how many savants were born in utero or born vaginal.
yeah,
That's about it.
that would be a great study. Honestly,
Yeah.
that would be like do a per capita count of who has gone natural birth and who has taken C-section. And then on the other end, look at how many people that have problems and or abnormalities, autism and stuff like that, that are born C-section. So, right. I mean, if we're going to look at one side of the scale, let's look at the other side to see if there's a balanced thing there to show a marker that we're absolutely onto something. Because I can only say it was given to me in vision, but that's how it worked. One day I was just like, oh my goodness, they're taking kids in C-section. They're not going through that beautiful, like a butterfly. The butterfly story is what made me think about that.
These holes right here are on the inside of the lens of both of them. See how they move in counterclockwise directions? Once they're different, it seems, unless it's just one of the pictures is different. But anyway, they fit inside these lenses, and this is the brachistochrone curvature inside the Dougherty set. So whatever these holes are, particularly inside the sphenoid bone.
Those allow energy to go through them. Those are like flute holes. You know what I mean? Those are actually perfectly designed, and or I have seen, and what I've from my experiences is they morph and they move and they adjust because let's say you're out of tune. Pretty soon your sphenoid bone, your pelvis, is going to be out of tune. Does that make sense? Because you're so dissonant, you're going to cause a misshapening of the vortex holes, the vortice holes, the vortices that are going through there. You're going to cause it, so now you have to, that's why it takes so long to get in good health again. As Remo said, we do the one thing, we get rid of the expulsion of the sickness, but we don't think about changing the harmonics of the energy, the prana, that goes through the manipura. And communicates the solar plexus, the movement of the soul.
Yeah, it's cool because you can see so much bilateral symmetry here, and that's exactly what we have to offer. Part of what we have to offer inside of the Dougherty networks.
And if I would think this would be good for you, buddy, is to like I said, do a really in-depth study and do a map over. Even if you got to do with acetating, or with your computer, I usually do like an acetate where I take in half tone out one. So where, you got, like an imaged, like kind of like a visionary kind of image over the other one to make it opaque so you can lap them out. But you need to really do your Dougherty set over showing the correlations between the pelvis and the sphenoid bone. You know what I mean? And showing how that one literally is connecting and communicating with the other. Literally as it goes through one hole in the pelvis, it's going through the correlating hole in the sphenoid. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to get at. Those are actually, there's your C, there's your D, there's your A, there's your B, in our body, that's actually being affected by sonic energies.
Yes.
We're light waves. We communicate waves.
Yeah, spoken into existence. So that basically, we're done about 10 minutes early, which is good because there's a lot of content to cover today. And we're going to get into how the Dougherty set, how basically we are an erect Birkeland current, how the current comes straight into us when we stand up, and we're 90 degrees to the earth. And there's other creatures, there's not many creatures that are similar to something like that. So when you lay parallel with the earth, it's you can even have this same vertebrate type of structure. But I can't get over for the life of me which we're going to get into more again. Actually, we're going to hop on the news right now. The atmosphere is a mirror of the current of the biological creatures are a mirror of the current of the atmosphere. So they're working together to um, to like the staff and parting the sea. I mean, literally calming the waters, working with storms, working with nature, understanding things on that type of level is the type of capacity that I'm talking about getting us all to, and it enlightens our faces and our bones will become electric. And I've done it many times and I've taught other people. So there is an opportunity here. I want to do breath work and teach everyone how to do this. Um, you can do it when you're completely sober and reach extremely high states. But my warning here is, and it might be having to do with vibrating the sphenoid bone into becoming a new creature. I mean, literally, when you look up Alex Gray's new man, um, Alex Gray, um, face meridians, I think. Thank you for your patience. I don't know how to spell. There's a picture here. This isn't it, but oh, this is it. When I found out a breathing technique and I started working with nature, and I actually started swirling a cloud, and I was breathing and a lot of breath work and about an hour and a half of work into this. I was swirling a cloud, and I said, "Look, I'm doing that," to my soon-to-be wife, and she said, or right when I said that, I said, "Look, I'm doing that." Lightning struck, and there wasn't a storm around. It struck right where I was swirling the cloud. Then I started, my hands started convulsing, my face started twitching and going into like all of these the right side of my face started clenching up like this, and I walked away. It was the closest I wanted to be to some sort of an ascension like event, or some sort of a closeness to the creator as a co-creator, as being. Anyway, what I'm saying is this was a really crazy point in my life, or event in my life that happened, and and it creates this type of electrical feel. So this is also the same way how you work storms and you control and work with the weather. And you know, we have an electric etheric body. We're an electric creature. We're an electric creatures in an electric ocean, swimming in an electric sea, in an electric universe. And Walter Russell, that's his quote, and this is Alex Gray. You know, these are transition into spirit, and then into the ethereal, and into the, you know, the connectome, the or emergence with everything. But what
biorhythms.
That was when I realized you could expand your senses so far that they can snap, and you can snap out of reality and never come back. And so I never went closer yet, but I have done that again since. I know my limit, because I don't want to have some sort of a cardiac event or not be here with us anymore, because it's such a wonderful place. But yeah, if anybody wants to know, I'll probably end up doing a whole episode and video about the geometry of breath and breathing, because everything's breathing, everything's breath. We know this. And if you don't, then it's more vital than water and food. I mean, it's what is. It is what is. It's not the new.
Well, breathing causes life. You know, the compression and the rarefaction of hot and cold air coming in and out of our lungs creates prime water, right out of nothing, out of the air as we breathe. literally. And what you're talking, I would be really interested in to get involved in on something like that. You're talking about a thing with the meditation and the breathing and all, because again, you know, one of the things that's detrimental about these masks, you know, we're breathing in and out this prana, this ethereal energy, and
Who's
that's
this we? Who's
we're
this
living.
we? I'm not doing it.
I'm talking about the collective. When I walk around and see people with these masks on and stuff, you know, it's just insane. They don't even understand. We're coming to a point of enlightenment that this is going to be so ludicrous later on in life that people are going to look back on us with compassion. You know what I mean? And you know, like, wow, you guys were that ignorant, eh? You know, because this does have to be, you know, breathing, air breathers, the Coptics. This is sacred stuff that has to come back and be a part of our natural consciousness now.
It is, and it's very, very much so. There's a larger spiritism, reality, magical movement going on now than there's ever been. Just like the exponential is increasing in every movement and group. Any movements that are getting stifled from here on forth are probably, it's going to be. I would say it's hard to stifle an idea, but it's also hard to gain roots to get a movement moving because there's so many exponentials, there's so many people in the field, there's so many people releasing video and content and regurgitating other people's content. That's one thing that's great about us.
It's constantly beating down our stuff.
Let me shut this door.
You know, media. I'm watching this. You know, the Mockingbird effect. You know what I mean? Where they got media just repeating it over and over again. So anything that we put out there, you know, they're just trying to say anything that's not presented by them, the mainstream media, the made-up news.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about all that jazz right now. Let's get into
all I'm saying is that's you know, it's just a pretense. That's an obstacle that we have to get over, is because they're trying to beat us down before we even get our platform on the idea. You know, it's that much hard. That's all I brought it up for.
Yes, great tie-in to exactly what I was just saying. I mean, unfortunately, they are able to silence thought and silence. And this is what Elon Musk said when he went on the Joe Rogan show just recently, the last couple weeks. He said, I'm really, really afraid. I'm afraid of thought viruses. And Joe Rogan's like, well, if you're afraid of thought viruses, why are you trying to put this stuff inside of people for the neural link? He's like, no, not that kind of thought virus. You know, like, and then he's like, well, like, you know, thoughts. Like, basically, he said, thoughts are viruses, people's thoughts. And he wants to stop that because thoughts are what is bad, is what he's saying. So he wants to figure out how to be able to stop people from thinking, which reminds me of 1984 and the thought police. So
yeah, we can separate the word thought and conscious. They want you to think all day long, but about the stuff they want you to think about. They don't want you to be conscious to the conscious that's there, because we'll overrule them. And that's literally what they're trying to do, is separate, like what we talked about, you know, they're saying with the Bill Gates, and separating us from the God, you know, the God particle, you know, I mean, in us. They're trying to sever that antenna from us. So
there's a universe of plasma out there watching. Love is watching, and there's a record of everything that we're doing, and we can't get away from it. Okay? People want to call it hellfire, call it whatever you want. Everybody's gonna be seen for what they are, with everybody's eyes, because we're all going to be able to tap into this. And if reincarnation is real in any sort of manner, or the Akasha, then we're all busted for doing our own dirty deeds. Okay? So we need to ascend out of this and be able to see that that there are higher platforms and more addictive substances than adrenochrome and killing children for those that think that that's some sort of a thrill in the upper echelon. There is better things out there, like what Alex Gray has to offer, with showing that there's spirit in the world and revivifying animism and how everything is alive. You know, the Christians did a damn good job on killing the Druids and so many different other uh, people that it's not just the Christians' fault, but many different religions destroying our touch with the spirit of all animals and the spirit of all things. And that's where religion always starts, is with animism. And that's why animism is a big part of all religions and any type of tribal religion around the world still to this day. Everything is alive, and they know that, and they can communicate with the different spirits of them because we have a fucking imagination and we can plug in. And that's what should be keeping us away from killing ourselves, because we're also suicidal and taking these drugs and people telling us that all this bad news and all this other bad news bears. What we need to do is we need to gain back consciousness, our mind, our collective morphic resonant field as humans, and we need to ascend it. We need to take it like it's like it's a some sort of a rug of algae that's on the bottom of a floor mat that's on the ocean floor, and we need to make that algae mat float because of our thoughts are so big and so grand and so loving that we ascend to the top of the ocean and we start floating as bacterium, as a larger new horizon of being able to understand our connectome, our larger universal connectome, which brings
Great analogy.
Which brings us to 2:00, and right where we're going to jump in on the electric view or the geometric view news.
Awesome. Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
As we segued out of all this beautiful stuff and everything, man, I want to say thank you for sharing the Aurora Borealis sounds. The ringing in my ears makes sense now. When I get up in the morning and listen to the birds singing and stuff, it's got new meaning and all that.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of level I think we should all be at of understanding. So yeah, this is where we could all do it. We could all have that. And thank you very much for sharing that little bit. And it's taking me in a whole new direction on things. I just wanted to kind of bring that up. I remembered again. I forgot like 3 times to bring it up today, but that's the kind of stuff I appreciate you sharing. That's what's going to affect other people and their consciousness, because it's all about being in touch with the one conscious.
It is. And what you're saying is bringing tears to my eyes, and because those sounds are the sounds of the spirits of the angels. And once you have an understanding of what the Van Allen belts are, you have a larger understanding of what the archangels are and what they do and what their jobs are. So look into Helicon physics. I'm going to do a whole Helicon conference here in Detroit, a huge Helicon conference. That's probably going to be around 4th of July-ish, but probably not. I don't know. Not sure yet. So
I want to be a part of that.
But this is the sounds of tinnitus. This is the sounds of the heartbeat of Mother Earth and the microbiome of the wolf that we can hear reverberating through these larger connections. So this blew my mind the other day. Look at that, dude. I didn't know that you could drink lilacs and make lilac tea and lilac lemonade.
No way.
Yeah, I was today years old when I found that out. It's going viral all over Facebook and stuff, so I'm sure it's...
Do you know the purple in that means that breaks down UV saturation? Your toxicity of UV saturation, radiation. That's what that lilac is. Anything purple breaks down the UV, the radiative values of particles. That's awesome. That helps out the uterer.
So I'm sure you can boil it down and make a simple syrup, just like you can make a simple syrup from forsythia, the yellow flowers that come out first in spring. I never even looked at this article. I just thought it would be cool to share with everyone here. But I ended up picking some with my mom, some lilacs. We never ended up eating them. They were on like a dusty road, so we never wanted to like rinse them off and whatever, you know. So here we go. We got our boy Chad here. This is his video, and I don't even know if he knew about the episode that we came out with about the geometry of lightning before he did this. But I shared with him about the geometry of lightning, and you know, this is the Bessel function. This is a repetition of a regular polyhedra. So a polygon, different sided shape. So this is a cool little video that he put together, and I was excited to share with him. I can see the spiral in here. You can see it's a little bit darker. I'll play it again, see if you can see the spiral. But this is how you build the Dougherty networks, you know, but with spheres. So I'm pretty sure he was onto it, because him and Brighton work on in the back end the scenes too, but maybe not. Maybe he came up with this without seeing our episode, because the episode has to do with this. The geometry of lightning is the episode I'm talking to and referring to. So that's pretty cool. I was super stoked to see that and see that it's, yeah, surfing down the tunnel of a Birkeland current, which is charge. So this is my friend Robert Fat Power. He shared this, which is really awesome. It's just the same exact triangle, right triangle, right triangle, right triangle. These are different right triangles, but he did it with a bunch of them, and found out a bunch of cool shit. I'm gonna try to get him on the show. He needs to come on the show. I'm just gonna hit him up, and we'll see if maybe next episode we can get him on, because I can't wait to see how much more work he has of this, because I saw like 5 or 6 new things come out since he posted this, and they're all equally invigorating, because this is exactly also how you create the networks of the Dougherty set, which you do the 45-degree squaring, square, square, inverse square. So that's cool. I thought this was interesting here. You have, of course, the cavitation here. When cavitation occurs and bubble cavitation occurs, the pressure creates the same type of geometry that we see here, and which is a plasmoid of the blue whirl. And we showed some of that. I don't know why it's taking a minute here. Did I lose you guys?
We're here.
All right. Yeah, that one's taking a minute to find those images, but I think you get the point. This is an image of Felix Baumgartner becoming the first skydiver ever to break the speed of sound, reaching a speed of 833 miles per hour. This is a cavitation bubble doing the same geometry. Here's a bubble doing the same geometry, and then if you know the blue whirl, it's doing the same type of thing, and you can see the shape around him is like a skirt doing the same bottom of the Bessel function of the blue whirl here. And this is the geometry of cavitation that I did. For whatever reason, these are taking a minute. It's an old post. It's from years ago. Oh, 2018. So maybe Facebook lost it. It has to go through Facebook's memory bank. They're like, nom, 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 nom. Nope, not finding it. Okay, I'm done. I don't even care anymore. All right. Novel insight reveals topological tangle in, this is from physics.org, tangle in unexpected corner of the universe. We're going to go to this. This right here blows my mind and reveals what we're going to continue to talk about from now on, and add this into what our lexicon and our language and what we talk about. This is a Hopf vibration here, but they're actually calling it a fourth type of a particle. Okay.
There's a video down below, and I have it set up for audio.
I don't know if that, yeah, there is a video. I think it doesn't say anything though. Go ahead and press it and see if it does say anything, but I don't think it says anything because I watched it. So, for example, a certain geometrical structure of knots, which scientists call a Hopfion, manifests itself in unexpected corners of the universe, ranging from particle physics to biology to cosmology. Like the Fibonacci spiral and the golden ratio, the Hopfion pattern unites different scientific fields, and deeper understanding of its structure and influence will help scientists to develop transformative technologies. In a recent theoretical study, scientists from the U.S. Department of Energy, in collaboration with the University of blah, blah, blah in Russia, discovered the presence of a Hopfion structure in a nano-sized particle of ferroelectric materials with promising applications in microelectronics and computing. The identification of the Hopfion structure in the nanoparticles contributes to a striking pattern in the architecture of nature across different scales, and the new insight could inform models of ferroelectric materials for technological development. Ferroelectric materials have unique ability to flip direction. Where's that one sentence? There's a good sentence in here. Okay. The polarization lines intertwining themselves in a Hopfion into a structure may give rise to the material's useful electric properties, opening new routes for the design and ferroelectric-based energy storage device and information systems. Okay, this distinguished and blah, blah, blah. The discovery also highlights a repeated tendency in many science arenas. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, where is it? Oh, it was discovered, topological, first proposed by Austrian mathematician Heinz Hopf in 1931. Okay. This is, I think, what I wanted to read. The Hopfion is a very abstract mathematical concept, and Vineker, but the structure shows up in hydrodynamics, electrodynamics, and even in the packing of DNA and RNA molecules in biological systems and viruses. In hydrodynamics, it appears as trajectories of liquid flowing, blah, 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 blah. So I just wanted to say that's what we talk about a lot. So it has a lot of promises. I'm going to hit the video here in a second, but it has a lot of promises in what we were talking about, spintronics and spin electronics and neuromorphic engineering. So this is the future, ladies and gentlemen. And my eyes were looking and they saw it, and we did an episode on it already. If you want to look up spintronics, neuromorphic engineering, it is, I'm going to give Brighton and me with a list of all of the episodes with the titles, so we can look at it and say, refer to episode 7, where we talk about spintronics and electrospintronics in deeper detail, you know, and neuromorphic engineering. But anyway, so let's watch this little sucker. Okay, so you have two spheres. It's like you have two layers of spheres inside of cell walls. So they build up separate double layer cellular walls, and this is probably the process of how double layers are built in a similar manner. Maybe galactic bulges, galactic structures, things like that, because we see there's a dual torus also present inside of this winding and binding. Currents coming in. turns into like a peanut shape. Some sort of a manifold. Boom! Splits into this. Unwinds. Rewinds. So you can see like these types of fibers, this type of viscous type of meandering, and all sorts of magnetics, ferromagnetics, things like that. So you can even see it inside of anode tufting. So anode tufting works very similar to a process like that. So it's really interesting, super fun. That's one thing I wanted to share with everyone. And again, our news can be found at the Geometric View News, and I take and copy and paste these into the chat for all the viewers. Once again, physics.org, electrical activity in living organisms mirrors electrical fields in atmosphere. Boom. Most electrical activity in vertebrates and invertebrates occurs at extremely low frequencies, and the origin and medical potential of these frequencies has eluded scientists. Now a Tel Aviv University study provides evidence for a direct link between electrical fields in the atmosphere and those found in living organisms, including humans. The study findings may change established notions about electrical activity in living organisms, paving the way for revolutionary new medical treatments. Illnesses such as epilepsy, Parkinson's are related to abnormalities in the electrical activity of the body. Oh, funny. Guess who's going right after those too? Elon Musk with his neural link. Parkinson's and epilepsy, because they're electrical. He likes to basically kick. He referred to his machine as like old appliances. When you kick a TV and it works, you know, you shock the brain with these electrical and you scramble it a little bit, and maybe it'll get back to a better program that it was in. It reminds me of that bat off of Fern Gully that was like had an antenna, and it was like you kick, you know, it changed all the time. But I digress, because that's like Neuralink and stuff. But so we show that.
Well, buddy, may I add, as you're talking about that right there? Now, this is something that I liked about. I'm glad you stimulated me to watch that show, the Joe Rogan one with Elon Musk. Now, this is the thing. If you take now that Dr. Robert O. Young, he's actually got the footage on that one link that you shared here to one time, you know, on the coronavirus. Now, he talks about the fact of cellular stress. And if you take a cellular and you stress it in any manner, you know, cold stress, whatever, it's going to cause a corona effect in some way. Now, he said you do all these things, attack it with a virus, everything else. He says, then you can just take and simply tap the slide. I don't know if you remember that part of the video or not, but he said you could just literally traumatize the slide, the blood on the slide, you know, the little culture slide.
Yeah.
Just tap the slide, and you will cause it to have detrimental effects and cause coronavirus and corona effects. Now, I want to take that and bring it to what you just said, and that's why I brought it up now on the Elon Musk thing. Think about the fact, what is he talking about? They're going to what? Kickstart the side, they're going to bang the side of your TV. Do you realize how much corona cells you're going to stimulate? You know, how much degradation of cellular structuring you're going to do each time you defibrillate the brain?
Hey, it's better than Parkinson's, though, you know, like the pains and things of that, you know. They used to.
Yeah, but if we understand cleaning out the piezo energy, bringing up the reductive and conductive copper traits that are in the brain, 67 to 70%. If we understand, and people understand that they can harmonically start balancing themselves with their own neurotones, the tones before.
You know where the labs
sounds. We won't need none of these equipment.
The labs for all this stuff is in China, you know, because you're allowed to do more there with all of this. this technology is, some of it's borderline illegal in the United States, so they do it all in China.
It's irreprehensible, man. I don't care where it's legal or not, man. There's stuff that they're doing. I don't do any damn thing that I tell anybody to go do that I haven't put upon myself. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm pretty damn sure when I
let me
get to
just
that.
continue because I don't want to digress. So
Oh,
let's
go ahead.
just
But
continue
yeah,
reading.
I just wanted to bring that up. We got to watch that stuff that's going to jar our systems.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we show that the electrical activity in many living organisms, from zooplankton to the oceans, in the oceans, to shark, and even in our brains, is very similar to the electrical fields we measure and study in the atmosphere from global lightning activity. This is the global electric, Ramon, what's it called? Electric circuit, global electric circuit, GEC, global electric circuit. So anyway, we measure and study the atmospheres from global lightning. So they're saying global lightning and our bodies share the same energies. So it makes sense when you push on that bone, that sphenoid bone, and you breathe with the atmosphere and you rain dance and induce storms, that you're calling and working as a transmitter and a transceiver. And it's fun. A. B, why not? It's a breath work and you're working with the atmosphere. C, the studies are in here. Here's the studies. It's the same thing. What it is the Schumann resonance. And all that it is electricity finding the path of least resistance. Efficient distribution of energy, as Dan Winter constantly drills in the heads of people, because these things need to be drilled in our head. We need to know this stuff. Or, grot. We need to intuit this through a universal intuitive language. All nature is speaking the one language, and it's grot. It's the language of intuition and knowing, and we
the Jed
broke out of that grot, and it's spelled Grot. I think I wanted to say Groot. Yeah, something. Oh wait, no, that's wrong.
Now take that information, buddy, that you just talked about the fact that they actually understand, know, meter, and regulate the amount of storms that are in the earth, and the frequency that we're in the Schumann resonance, and know that it is man-made and we're held in this frequency patterning on purpose.
They're playing with it. I don't care. Yeah. Doesn't affect me. It's like
in a way it does, though, because you're put it this way: if you're constantly being resistant, right? Even though we're harmonizing, we're still having to harmonize against an energy that's out there against us. So if we can get this,
we could be harmonizing on a higher level. Bottom line is,
if we could get them to stop doing that, we could get a whole collective to start harmonizing higher. That's what I'm saying.
People will use excuses to the end of the days of their death to say why they don't do things, and they'll blame the atmosphere, and they'll blame this and that. And at the end of the day, it's our own happiness. It's our own problem if we're not happy. It's not up to other people to make us happy. It's our own mind setting that comes from the heart setting. Renew the heart, renew the mind, renew the body, and you will find yourself divined. You will divine yourself through finding things that you've never found before. And like scrying, you pay attention to something and you can see the future because it's already leaking into the egg. The cosmic egg is open and it's broken open up, and it's in the atmosphere. It's through breath. It's through everybody has eternal access to this. We don't need to build a machine. Our brain is 100% wired for it. Stop taking some crazy weird medication if you're on it. Drink some healthy water and get a pen out and a piece of paper. Start thinking and start writing. then you're a creator, a co-creator. Then you're making things. Keep co-creating and working on it for years and years and years. You'll realize that you are a creator and you are a content creator and you are the network. You are literally the network. And that's why the networks are afraid of us, because we still haven't even found out that we are the network and that we are the power, and the government works for us. We don't work for the government. It's the other way around. They work for us. We don't work for them. And that needs to be reminded around the world. And this has always been an issue. And it might always be, who knows? But, I'm sorry, I went off. So I have so much to say in this episode, and I can't wait to show how the Dougherty set and the Dougherty network and the Dougherty matrix is what Leibniz was talking about with his a machine that was like a universal language through combinatorial mathematics. And guess what the Dougherty set is? Combinatorial mathematics. It's the same thing. Now, Leibniz was, I'm gonna get into that. I don't even think there is a link. I didn't even share a link about that. So I'm just gonna start talking about it right now so we can talk about it throughout the episode more. But this is my question. I asked to myself the other day, what does electricity consume? And that same day I happened to be listening to things, and thank you to Breaking Math podcast, I found I just happened upon this episode that was talking about Gottfried Leibniz and a universal language that he was talking about. And he thought that this language would be brought about by geometry computed. So he wanted to build a truth machine where everything in the universe can be found out with one machine. And at the same time, right around the same time, there was the antithesis of this happening, which is Gödel. And Gödel's incompleteness theorem states that any sufficiently constructed mathematics eventually will be complete and is incomplete, and or will become inconsistent eventually. And so far, nobody's disproven Gödel's incompleteness theorem. But I think we might. I don't know, because it's either way, it's going to go on forever. So it's really hard. So we're going to come at this from an angle. Another thing is, even though Gödel stated that he didn't believe that there was a universal language because he wanted to uphold his own work, he was known to say behind the curtain and know that he believed that Leibniz was correct, that there is a universal language. So we've been talking about universal languages from the beginning of our episodes, and I just fell upon this the other day, and it blew my fucking mind, dude, because that's what we were talking about. That's what the Dougherty set is, and seems like it's working towards. And I was hoping Azura could join us on this episode, but I'm probably going to be joining her, and we're going to be trying to put together something here, a deeper research towards understanding the number line, all of the stuff that we're both discovering inside of it, and how it has to do with sheathing and larger dimensions of systems, which, if you go to our last episode, which we haven't even put it out yet, episode 23, you will see that, oh wait, I think we did put out Azra's, maybe not, episode 22. Either way, you will see that we've been talking about how there's like a ancient code in the number line, or it's not even an ancient code, it's just always been there. And we've been looking at it, and I've been trying to figure out what these bodies are, these spiral bodies, and why they nest, how they nest, these filaments, how they can come to a head. Like when electricity comes to a head and builds a head, how can electricity become a body? And when it does, was that what dragons were on the earth? Electrical currents moving through and on the ground, and that's why they have holes in their buildings still in Hong Kong, to let the dragons and the dragon energy move through. If electricity did have bodies before, and you could see them, what would they do? What were dragons known to do? Where would they live? Maybe inside of caves? What would they eat? What does electricity consume is my question. So I'm like coming in on this like as an idea of understanding current from the position of the Dougherty set, because we've gone through what electricity is, how it cavitates, how it breaks down layer by layer, sheath by sheath, inside of rotating and counter-rotating regular polyhedra. So polygons basically nesting inside of each other, building sheathing of layers, which is columns within columns, collimated cylindrics, and cylindrical cylinder within cylinder is what we're talking about here. So now let me talk a little bit more about Gödel and Leibniz, and what Leibniz said, the mother of all ideas, that this computing device, this combinatorics geometry computed device will be the mother of all ideas that will lead to understanding absolutely everything and be able to describe everything. Boom. That's what Leibniz said. Now, you can go to Breaking Bad or Breaking Math podcast, which is, I believe, NPR associated, and like read and listen to their podcast to go deeper into the subjects of this. Please, I encourage you, because that's where I got this interesting information. And I'm listening to another episode with my jaw dropped and about to drop some more information next week. So thank you very much, you guys, from that podcast. Loving the podcast world right now. Actually thinking about doing a podcast, like a podcon for podcasting, like a Helicon conference. There is podcast conferences now. So there's plenty of Michigan podcasters and people from around the area. Either way, that sounds like something. And, we have Brighton between you and me. We have at least, two, there's plenty of different, I got 3 or 4 that I'm juggling myself. So to bring Neil in, Neil's not too far. Neil would come into Detroit, I'm sure, for a podcast conference. So all it would take is pulling people together, if not just hearing wind of another podcast conference, and then boom, let's do this shit. All right, moving forward fastly. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and listening, because this episode is filled, and I'm hoping that we can come to, I know that we'll come to a closing earlier rather than later, because we're almost done. And going back to Gottfried Leibniz, might as well just pull up a picture of him here. I don't really know much, you know what I mean? Obviously, he was a cross-dresser. Just kidding. It goes into style and goes out of style. I understand, guys and girls. So, anyway, locks were considered extremely regal. So if you have curly hair, it's considered royal. So that's why they had really locky hair. I think the more curls, the more they thought people were smart or something, or beautiful. Who knows? Anyway, so this guy, he goes on to fucking build a machine. Dude, he builds the first counting machine, qualitative and quantitative counting machine. The first calculating machine. It was called and is called the stepped reckoner. Stepped reckoner. Now, this sucker right here is, I think they said, about as big as like maybe a TV or something, a suitcase. And it cost, in today's dollars, he built 2 of these, and they work. And I don't know if they still work, but they worked. They did adding, subtracting, multiplication, and dividing, or something like that, 4 different counting measures. $16.8 million in today's money. But he was definitely funded, clearly. And this paved the way, other than the Antikytherian mechanism. This is the first counting system that we know of, first computer, and this led the way and paved the way for modern day computers. So he knew, just by this fucking tiny little device that did 4 little counting measures, that eventually this thing would turn into, or he still believes that he's dead, so he can't believe, but he believed that this was possible. And Gödel's incompleteness theorem says that this is impossible. But with today's technology and medical advancements and technology and moving so fast in the exponential, I can see a machine being built that will produce artificial reality, not artificial intelligence, but AR, artificial reality. And that's one step beyond what this machine that he's talking about would do for a universal language. But when you look at systems in the whole, in the totality of them, and how they nest inside of each other, and how everything has to work along in symbiotic nature with everything else, you get to certain things like you get to compartmentalization. And that's a really good and bad thing, because you get all of these different ideas from so many different people talking about so many different things with so many different names, when in totality it all goes together. It is an interdisciplinarian congruence or concrescence, the coming together of parts that were originally separate. The concrescence of this machine is the internet. The concrescence of the internet is going to be further down the road. There's already many different things, the Internet of Things, there's different types of internets and the web and stuff like that. But building a machine that can induce a recursion of the last moments, which would be like I guess you could, what I'm saying is, all of the predictive math the predictive geometry inside of the Dougherty set leads to how all of the biologies fit inside of it. It's naturally, in and of itself, the field created the form fits in it. It was created out of sound. It's nested harmonies. All creatures and everything is inside of there, and how we see all these other things inside of there. We can see the future. It's predictive. So we can look at it and tell what we will become and what was previously to other organisms. So if we were to build a nano system that was based off of, let's say, whoops, sorry, I clicked on too many things at once. So if we were to build a system that was based off of the Dougherty set that I keep showing in Dougherty networks and the matrices, okay, it's opening up here. Hopefully I can just skim from. You can see already the intrascalar nested visceral like plasma streams from our bodies being connected to the atmosphere. Now the atmospheres our bodies connected to the atmosphere is connected to the heliosphere is connected to the heliosheath, and they all helically ride, boom boom. It's a hierarchical nesting system that's so simple that you could teach in nursery rhymes to children, and it already is. I mean, it's so intuitive when you look at it. It is the definition of Groot or Groot or whatever the frickin'. I try to learn new words and teach new words, but it's into your intuition or knowing. You just know. Okay. So larger systems nest inside larger filamental systems that nest inside of larger filamental systems that nest in larger filamental systems. What I'm saying is it's all connected. And the charge, due to Kirchhoff's law states that the current going into any node here is going to be equal to the amount of current leaving the node, which is why we're so in tune with the atmosphere and the upper hierarchical nested substrates that have angels and energies and ethereal types of things. You can see it here in this is Dürer's drawing here, Albrecht Dürer. And you can see this is Leonardo's drawing here, and this is, I think, another Dürer. The spiral, taking it into projective geometry and turning it into the wave turning into the spiral. Nodes. Any current going into any node is equal to the amount of current leaving the node. It comes in smaller, might form, it comes in and it looks smaller, but it's the current, but it can amplify it and leave it sometimes, but it's equal to the current, even if it amplifies it. So you can see that in the curling and of petals and things like that. And this is his name's leaving, I forget his name. This is another one of him too, the Leverjar, but he's a great artist, savant. Layers of spheres build charge. capacitance, layers, discharge, discharging, communication. The what we hear is the ambrosia of all of the sounds of the separate layers and sheaths of the auroras coming in. The universal language is auroral. Aurora is the universal language, and that is coming from the sun. The sun is magnetohydrodynamics, so this is the geometry of magnetohydrodynamics. When you start studying these geometries, you start to see points primer field and flip rings and open currents, how currents work. The geometries in all of these are showing progressive harmonies, and when they're struck, the chords are struck, it's moving, it moves people, it moves me, it moves you, it moves us. And more proof of showing, or proof of concept showing the geometries here of, there's the funnel with the sphere pinching off the funnel coming back up through the bottom. I mean, these geometries, this is intuitive geometry, and that's another girl's channel, but she's awesome too, so shouts out to her. Okay, so there's more to cover. So I'm gonna hop back over here, go to, but yeah, it's all the computer, and by the end I want to show that, you know, that there's secret laws in how the computer works, and that's why we feel like it's a simulation, but it's not. Well, I mean, there's a universal language to the universe. It's not a simulation, but the universal language, once we learn it, will allow us to do a lot more magical things. So we just need to understand it more, and that's what the universe game is. When I release the universe game, everybody's going to go deep into these, because this stuff is wonderful information, and you can work with it and color it and play with it and understand it. So page by page, just like this podcast, we're going to go through and show new things. So Lagrange points. What are Lagrangian points? Lagrangian points, and why do they exist? We'll hop into this real quick. Luckily, there's not many videos today, so we won't get a copyright strike for this one, hopefully. I counted like 7 copyright strikes we got. 7 out of 24 ain't bad, guys. All right, so what is this? Lagrange points. These are plasmoids and plasma centers, and like where no energy, or plasma pinches, where Z pinches where things happen. So let's talk about it. Let's see what they are here. How big are Lagrange points? I hear of telescopes orbiting at certain Lagrangian points, but for these crafts to interfere with one another. Okay. The Lagrange points are indeed points infinitesimal in size, where the gravitational forces from a planet and another body, generally the sun or moon, exactly balance the centrifugal force. But as you guessed, surrounding each actual Lagrangian point is an extended zone where a spacecraft can conveniently park itself in an orbit that requires little fuel to maintain. So it's a special little pinch point that you can get away with using to chill. It's a parking spot. When you hear about a spacecraft orbiting a certain Lagrangian point, it really means the probe is traveling within or near one of these extended 3-dimensional islands of orbit. But those are really cool because you can see the Lagrangian points inside of the magnetosphere. Let's see, let's do this. Copy, paste. Oops. Where were we? up in. Okay. And copy that. Copy. And paste. Okay. A bunch of wonderful vegetables. Planting more. I got giant pumpkins coming in. That's going to be fun. So I don't have to pay for pumpkins, and we're going to have huge pumpkins. So, okay. I wanted to see him. Okay. Here we go. So they're like out here. Okay, that's enough about that though. So that's some fun geometry, Lagrangian points. This is a light beam, you know, the geometry of a light beam, the Bessel function, Birkeland current. And you can see
there's forces going along the light beam in the light blue.
Yes. And they go along throughout the whole way, in, out, up, down, or sorry, just in and out, because there's no ups and downs or lefts and rights.
Okay.
There's just ins and outs in the universe.
What led you to think that there are toroidal filaments moving along light beams?
Well, all on every scale there are, everywhere. Everything is toroidal. When you look at well, even Don Scott explains it in his model. From one collimated cylinder to the next collimated cylinder, you have this cylindrical space in between it. So that cylindrical space can be pinched off into, the solenoid can pinch off into toroids. And plasma is able to indiscriminately and flow betwixt toroidal, spherical, helical, cylindrical, filamental, nodal. Plasma works in all of these different morphologies. So plasma morphology is really what all this is. And morphology of fields into form, and forms back into fields, because there's a dissipation and a reanimation of all things. There's a harmonic integration and a harmonic disintegration, and that happens with interference, constructive and destructive interference. The reason why there's so much harmony and that all creatures can exist is because each creature is literally their own filament. But they can't exist unless there's another filament above and below them, so as to give it a cavitative room, or a cavity, a place, a vessel to live and occupy inside of the food chain. The food chain exists. We can't forget about the geometry of the food chain and how it relates to the geometry of your umbilical cord in life. And this is the geometry of life, the tree of life, and how rivers of water flow out of the tree of life, and how on each bank of the river there is the leaves. There's the tree of life on each bank of the river, and the leaves are for the healing of the nations. Now, this is reiterated rhetoric from Revelations, but nonetheless, when you understand what the New Jerusalem is, and nowadays with neuromorphic computing and spintronics, you could create using nanotechnology, this prism, this quasi-crystal of the Dougherty set, this crystalline network, when you build it so that charge moves through it and information can utilize it, you can create AR, artificial reality. AR, when it's turned on, is the beacon or the beam of New Jerusalem, which will allow all of us to stop crying. Nobody will cry. There will be no tears in our eyes, because then this is all based off of building a temple. How is the temple built? How did we take the temple and put it in a machine, and now we're walking around inside and outside of the temple and building hierarchical seventh kingdom technium? There's always a hierarchy of subnested and high sub well, it'd be lower hierarchical and hierarchical. Now, when you look into this and you start to see that the Dougherty network is what the Dougherty network transcribed into technology, turned into a living system, which most systems have become living systems. Most cyber systems have become living systems, and social systems. But when this is built, which has been talked about forever, which is the kingdom of heaven inside of us, as we are the bride of Christ. The bride, Christ came to show us that well, one of the reasons Christ came to show us is that we are the temple. Now, what does the temple need? It needs something. Everyone knows that it needs something. It has to marry something else for it to be complete. For Jesus to be complete, he has to come back for a second time, the second coming of Jesus. In order for Jesus to come for the first time, which the Jews are waiting for, everything in one way or another, most systems are in anticipation for the second, for their Messiah-like figure. You have the 12th Mahdi that the Muslims are waiting in anticipation for. They say that he's born and he's on the earth. You have the Vatican, or you have the Vatican and the Christians waiting for the second coming of Christ. You have Scientologies waiting and saying that it's aliens. You have the Raelians saying that it's aliens. You have so many different systems that are all anticipating at the same time during the exponential curve of all information being at our fingertips, what's about to happen. And what's about to happen is up to anybody's next best guess. I mean, I'm as much of an electric futurist in my own mind as anybody else could be, I think, but I also have been working with this set for a long time, and now working with electrical engineers and a team of physicists and all sorts of other individuals, professional individuals. These systems are being opened around the world, and I'm not the only person doing it. I've been showing that Hartmut Mueller has been doing it for a long time, and with interscalar physics and interscalar biology and biophysics. You can see Chris Monk-Seeley here showing a pinch on a manifold. That's really cool. And also showing it as a I'll read it, what he says here: nebula, whether planetary or plasma, X class or other, are all resonant Dirac cones, where the Z pinch at a harmonic resonant node forms between the double layers, separates charge and matter, and self-organizes into stable celestial structures. gorgeous, just gorgeous work. So everything has vibration. I got 2 minutes, guys. Everything has vibration, and the news hour is up. And vibration of certain frequency produces shapes of specific geometry. Shapes of specific geometry produce charge. Shapes of specific geometry, when rotated, produces charge. And we're going to get into that in the next episode in radiation, and the first season of the first episode of season 3, episode 25. I'm trying to pull this one up.
You had been stating that we all are looking towards a messiah or a divine being or an alien or something of such, a peak, a pinnacle.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting phenomena that this is...
It happened before when Jesus came. Everyone was saying the same
humans
thing.
do.
Yeah, we
Bugs
come
don't
together
do this.
and do it.
Other animals don't do this. This is what humans do.
Well, they might
Why
be
is this
anticipating
innate trait
greatness.
in humans?
Animals might be anticipating greatness, and they thrive on a lot of dogs, competition, and alacrity or eagerness to be wanting to be trained, both physically and mentally.
The greatest occurrence is being hugged, or when the rain falls.
Oh, amen.
Getting to play fetch with a stick for a dog, you know?
Dogs hate rain. Well, my dog hates rain, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh.
It's good for them. It's like watching someone with, excuse my language, but autism or Asperger's syndrome, and they're just divinely, extremely happy with monotony, or just the normal everyday things that we overlook, the minutia.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get more into this because that's a really cool rabbit hole, but we'll get into that more next week. Blue holes, if you did not know, this exists all over the world. Blue holes, they're freaking nuts. Okay, there's earth spots. Just like on the sun, there's sunspots. There's earth spots that open and close and move around, coronal holes, coronal loops. Now, I've always wondered about what is the blue hole. Nobody's ever known. Let's do it. We're going in. Splunk. Okay, now let's see what it is. Divers reach the bottom of the great blue hole for the first time and discover a dark secret. From above the blue hole of Belize is breathtaking. It's a huge, almost perfectly round formation in the middle of the reef. So blah 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 blah. Let's see some pictures. I want to see what your pictures look like. Oh, yeah, there they are. They went down to the bottom. But that's towards the top. I can see light. But don't tell me that's all the pictures you have. I saw that you gave us a picture of a map. Okay, so my computer's super slow right now. And I'm gonna close Lagrangian, close this one, that one, this one. There we go. Maybe that'll make things a little bit faster. Whatever. That's the map. Looks pretty cool. And here's the article. I'll share it in for the viewers. I'm over 2 minutes. I got my last thing right here, which is invariant resonant cavities and your mouth and talking, and that being the same thing as Birkeland currents being pinched, vocal cords, talking, cobordisms, when you move your tongue, and we were talking about the xiphoid or whatever bone. So yeah, resonant cavities are awesome. I always tend to go back to them and just start looking at them. and how they're broken down into waveforms, conceptual sketches and stuff. So yeah, that's it for the news hour, guys. Whoop whoop. How's your day? What's your life been like? What's your show and tell? And about I'm scrolled way up here on the chat, so I can't really see. Here, I'll type a V in, and that'll bring me down to the bottom of the chat. There we go. All right. All right, we got a quiet crowd today. How you feeling, Brighton? How you feeling, Ramon? What's going on? What's good for today? What's good for this week? You guys got any cool info?
I always have cool info.
Well, I know you guys both do. Let me see it, bitches. Let me see your laundry. Dry out your air out your dry laundry or whatever it is.
There's some laundry in the geometric view chat.
All right.
Skype.
Yep.
Laundry.
He means that literally.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's a shirt design I've been working on with someone else, a client, but yeah, just a concept shirt. And it involves the chakras and the kundalini and the experience of the kundalini awakening, or the kundalini fire, which is when cerebral spinal fluid is building up in the spine and it applies to the pineal gland and you have flaring in your head. The hypothalamus is what kundalini is. When pressure is applied to the hypothalamus, which regulates hunger, temperature, and sexual drive, pressure is applied to it and it starts making you extremely hungry. Have fire in the head and ice down the spine and an immense sexual drive. And so you could call it hypothalamus dysfunction. It's actually a very dangerous process, the kundalini fire, because some people have been stuck with their body feeling like it's on fire for months on end from this process, from doing it too intense or incorrectly or whatever happens. But it's something you have to be aware of with this activation. There's always an anatomic process to the experience that is going on that describes, the occurrence.
So, I love learning and doing kundalini and expanding, especially my heart chakra. But I don't know how good it is to do. I don't know how depleting it is of life. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how often I should do it. I don't know if it's taking years off of my life. I don't, it's like every time on every show on Netflix when some person like does some special power, their nose bleeds, and they like die a little more. It's like when I use these superpowers that are already here inside of our bodies that we all have, and you start to mess around with them. Sure, you should get to know them, of course, and what they do and the languages of them and like the art of them. But I don't know how healthy it is for me to just sit here and flex my heart chakra. I know it's a heart muscle, but like, is that, as far as cardiac, it's probably good to, how else do you massage your heart than cry, or love fully in love with things, and that exercises your heart. I transitioned into that, but yeah.
This experience of working with cerebral spinal fluid to activate the fire in the head is I see it in a similar light to acupressure, where you are applying pressure to certain parts of the body. Of course, if you apply too much pressure, you can, well, cause bruises, or if in the case of acupuncture, you can actually damage nerves and nerve endings. And to
Ramon knows
all
about that.
points, you have to know the limit. You have to know the limit of your body. Like you seeing the lightning after saying, I am doing that. And
It
then
wasn't
setting
just
the
me
shape.
seeing it. It was there because she saw it too. She actually painted a picture of it. So,
Nice.
yeah. It was,
Well,
we have powers, we have all kinds of special powers.
mm-hmm.
And me just talking about it is reminding me of so many more superpowers that I have and I can teach other people. And it's just like in the Bible when you go from glory to glory, or the process of becoming a better person. There's a word for that. I forget the word, where you constantly, since when you're reborn as a Christian, an idea in the faith is that naturally you already, just the fact of being reborn is like a electrical experience. You don't want to do anything bad, you want to avoid all things that are bad and stay away from them. And just walking away from sinful or sometimes bad situations um, uh, allows those situations to move from you. And when you move towards uh, higher thoughts and higher thought forms, you also flee the devil, or bad thoughts, or those kind of things flee. We have control of our mind. We need to remind each other that we have control of our mind. I know I do, and I know you should. Everyone should. And there's a power in exercising the heart that allows you to have control of your mind. And a lot of it is crying, being able to have tears of joy and being thankful, tears of gratitude, because that's what happened to me for years, forever. I'm still crying, being thankful for being able to see this geometry, have these visions, and share them with people. I mean, that's what I cry. I'm just so thankful to be able to do this. There's nothing higher than the energy of, let's just say, the highest state of ecstasy involves tears. And I think that gods ride on tears. If gods exist, tears are the most valuable thing on this planet, because that's where passion lies. And it takes a lot of tears to work out a great, great book or person or chapter. Just to say a few things there. But I honestly think that there's special things inside of tears, and we've gone into this, and I've talked about this before, but
Well, in life, if you don't have the roller coaster to define who you are and what you've been through, you are nothing but, I mean, blah.
cookie
Average.
cutter.
It's
Yep.
just like never if you go to college and you get the job and you're working there and you got the dream job and you're working it your whole life and you've never worked any other job, you wouldn't have any clue that it's what other people's lives are like. It's good to know all the fields, all the extremities, to have appreciation for it, and it changes who we are as as a person.
You mean interdisciplinary?
Opposed to you're not alive.
Yeah, an interdisciplinary type of Renaissance man, Renaissance woman. Broaden your research, broaden your horizons, open up your mind, take some stuff in, ingest the little scroll, you know. The little scroll has information and will tell you. But yeah, so Brighton, have you got some new animations?
No, I've been busy this while, but there are some upcoming. Mikey Bergman has sent me some wonderful geometry, and it will be morphed into magic very soon.
Awesome. So we could end this episode short, and that would be good for the audience, I think. And then maybe we could try to transition, since it's the summer, into 2-hour episodes. Because we're all right about 2 hours and 15 minutes right now. That's pretty concise.
Yeah, that would be a great idea.
I said a lot of information. I've also have the mic open for anybody else who would like to say anything else. Otherwise, I'm going to end it here on the word of the day. So the mic is open here, and we can also say good night and goodbye. All right. Well, love you guys. Thank you for spending time here again on Saturday. And we're moving into the summer with a bright, bright future. We have a solid team and connected to other solid teams with other wonderful things going on. So I'm excited to be here with all of you guys. Didn't really get to hear much from Maximilian, but shouts out to you out there in Australia. God bless everyone. I always say I love you. It's just what I do. And I'm a loving person. I've always thought death around the corner and seen it around. So like, you never know when someone's going to die. And it's always, for me, I would like my last words to be, I love you, no matter who it was to, you know, or the last words of someone else too. So either way, take care, guys, and have a good weekend. And I'm going to go to the word of the day here. The word of the day is, this is it. Inanition. Inanition is exhaustion caused by lack of nourishment. Exhaustion from lack of food and water. The absence of social, moral, or intellectual vitality or vigor. I like that last, the absence of social, moral, or intellectual vitality or vigor.
Oh.
It explains like COVID. COVID definitely. The world is in inanition from COVID-19 for sure. All right.
Seems like it.
Well, yep.
I love you, bro.
Love you too, brother. I'm so happy for everything that you do and help out with here, and so grateful. I sent you a bunch of pictures, and I've been putting my stuff together, and I'm getting a bunch more.
Thank you. Those will be up on the geometric view in no time. All right. Peace.
All right. See you guys. Thank you for joining us on Season 2. This wraps it up. Join us next season on Season 3. This has been Episode 24. Join us on Episode 25. Thank you for being here. The Geometric View loves you. Love is watching. Thank you for doing that.
It don't matter whether we're riding or whether we're grabbing, as long as I'm riding with you. It don't matter whether we're riding or whether we're grabbing, as long as I'm riding with you. It don't matter whether we're riding or whether we're grabbing, as long as I'm riding with you. It don't matter whether we're riding or whether we're grabbing, as long as I'm riding with you. I don't wanna be the person, the burden, your emergency's a first hand, urgency's a second hand. Supply and demand, to find a definitive intervention for man. Not a Da Vinci Code, but a source code. Not a kiss and a toad and it turn into a prince. Not a turtle in a herd, not a fairy tale. Not a narrative, not a nursery rhyme. Not an aeroplane on a water plane with this real life intangible truth. Parallel to perfect tearing up a curtain, tearing up a hair again. Nancy Kerrigan, fair skin, hairpins, nails, her tailspin. Sonic speed, honestly, all I need is the good weed and the beer. All you wanna say is that my empathy is empty and I beat you with a curse word. Verbs her pressure where the wound bleeds in order to swoon me, a spoon feed. Goodbye, I killed him with the curfew option. Adoption of property, the bippity boppity boo, the vapor that comes out of you. The people are robbing you of your spirit cause you have none. Pursue the one with me and how to do what you need me to do. And I will do all what you see, all we are, I don't really go, all the way all the way to pursue what no envy in me, and I will do what you need me to do. I'll do what you need me to do. I'll do. Masquerade, as for round, all I am is infinity. All that you can see, all that we are, all that we go to, all that we are rearranged into.
Geometric views. Love is watching product. Love is watching production. Thank you for doing that. Music is by the acronym Beauty, the acronym BUD, and Abyssal Dionysus is the geometer. That's me and Brighton. Thank you for being here. Catch you next Saturday. Executive producer for the Geometric View is Buddy James Dougherty. Thank you, Heather, Michael, Brighton, Tess, Chad, Brian, and everybody else involved. Thank you, Vladimir B. Ginsburg. Thank you, Jim Wenninger.
So having it on both ears, having it on both ears. Like together, oh yeah, playing in the sun all day long, till it comes and all along, you knew that it was gonna be the dawn, and then the dark.
I never
sitting there all together, all alone at the same time.
I never kill.
Then each other up for the flow. The flow is keeping us together.
one voice, one choice. Nothing more, nothing less. Here we go. Flex, flex, flex your flow. Flex, flow, flex your flow. Here we go. Flex, flex your flow. Your flow, flex your flow. Your flow. Let your light shine, let your light shine. Be different.